So, Mr. Golding, thank you very much for coming, for giving us this chance to ask you some questions.
You're welcome.
And my first one is about Brexit. Actually, the whole world looks at it and thinks, what is going on?
Mm-hmm. You're not alone in that, because a lot of British people are very confused and frustrated by the process as well. But essentially, we had a referendum. It was the biggest democratic vote in British history, and we voted to leave the EU. Shortly after that, we held a general election, and every single major party stood on a platform of honouring the referendum result. Then we held a European election for the European Parliament, and the Brexit Party came out of nowhere and won the election. So we've had three separate democratic exercises that have all confirmed the British people want to leave the EU. However, the establishment, the political liberal elite in our country, are doing whatever they can to try and frustrate our exit from the EU. And it looks like they are just grinding it down and doing everything they can within their power to try and stop us leaving.
Is there any chance that you leave before the end of October?
I don't think so. Because what we have is we have an illegitimate parliament filled with illegitimate MPs. And I say that because the MPs, especially of the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, they were all elected on a platform that they would honour the referendum result. But now the Labour Party MPs, hundreds of them, are doing everything they can to try and stop Brexit happening. So they said one thing to get elected, but now they're elected, they're doing another. They're breaking their promises. They're passing laws that are going to make it very difficult for us to actually leave the European Union. And that's false advertising, because they've said one thing before the election, and now they've completely done a U-turn, and they're doing the opposite. So they've tricked the British people into voting for them. Now they're passing laws which are going to stop us leaving the EU. And if they don't authorise, the MPs themselves have to authorise a new election, then we could be stuck with this Parliament for the next 2 years.
One of the reasons the British citizens voted for Brexit was the migration crisis.
Yes.
And a couple of days ago, the Office of Statistics said that the population of Great Britain will grow in the next decade.
Yes.
Just because of the migration.
Yes.
So isn't there any controversy? I mean, if the migrants will still come to the country, can Brexit actually stop that?
Brexit was more about immigration, although immigration was right up there as one of the top issues. But there was other issues such as sovereignty, taking back control, etc. But Britain, unlike Russia, is a very, very small, overcrowded island with barely enough space and resources for our own people. And the idea, we have millions of unemployed in our country. The idea that we should be allowing hundreds of thousands of immigrants into our country every year from all over the world is madness. It's like taking a 2-bedroom house and filling it with 20 people. It wouldn't work. So we are full up. Immigration has gone on for too long. Immigration is out of control, and it's time we put our own people first and we stopped immigration. I'm hoping that if we do leave the EU, which is looking increasingly unlikely with these MPs passing laws in the House of Commons against it, but I'm hoping that we can try and slow down immigration into Britain, because we're a small country and we're full up.
This is a very unpopular point of view for Europe, actually. I mean, do you think, why then Europe doesn't want you just let go?
Well, a lot of people confuse Europe, which is a collection of sovereign, independent, ancient nation states, with the EU, which is essentially 2 institutions, one in Strasbourg, one in Brussels, which is doing its best to dismantle and eradicate all of the individual cultures and nation states of Europe. And like I say, Guy Hofstadt, who's one of the top Euro proponents in the EU, I think he's one of the chief negotiators, he said that he wants a European empire. And what they don't want is Britain leaving that European empire and competing against it economically, showing the countries within that federal European superstate that you can leave and do better outside. So they're doing everything they possibly can to try and thwart Brexit.
Well, Brexit turned Britain into a very turbulent point on the European map, but there is another turbulent point, Catalonia, and the protests going on there. And today, one of the representatives said that there is no way but negotiation, and the protests become more and more violent right now. What do you think is the outcome?
It's hard to tell. All I know is that it's a situation that seems to be reflected across Europe. And it used to be the case in the Cold War that Soviet Russia was the dictatorship, the totalitarian, authoritarian country, the tyranny, and in the West we had freedom, etc. Now it seems to have completely turned around. And it seems that in the Western countries, people like myself, dissident politicians who hold views that the political elites do not like, although the peoples of Europe support most of what we stand for, the politicians don't like it one little bit, and they resort to persecution, and we are demonised by the fake news media. And I think what you're seeing in Spain is a grassroots support for independence for Catalonia, and the establishment in Spain is responding with tyrannical measures to try and suffocate that, just like they're doing with Brexit. The establishment doesn't like what the people want, so they're doing everything they possibly can to try and destroy it. And it's the same thing. And the governments throughout Western Europe, the liberal elites, are the same ones who always point their fingers at Russia and condemn Russia's internal affairs, which I think are far healthier and more democratic than they are in the Western nations.
What about the operation which is called Steadfast Noon, I believe? Germany and NATO are training now, getting ready for the war, using nuclear weapons. Isn't it nuts?
It's crazy. And I don't understand what is driving this, but in the Napoleonic Wars, Britain and Russia fought together against tyranny, against a tyrant in Europe. In the First World War, we fought on the same side. In the Second World War, we fought on the same side. Millions of our people have died fighting on the same side in a number of huge wars and conflicts. And the idea now that we should turn around and be so hostile to Russia, when I see Russia as a patriotic state that puts its own people first, that has a strong leader, that isn't a globalist, isn't a liberal, isn't a sellout, treacherous politician like we have in the West. And I see Russia as probably should be our strongest ally in this world, especially with our energy needs, and we're looking to the Middle East instead of to Russia. It's crazy. And all of the hostility in my country and throughout Europe and in America towards Russia, I think, is so misplaced. And we should be looking at countries that we consider our strongest allies, like Saudi Arabia, which beheads people, which chops off hands, which forces women into what I think is a form of slavery. And yet we're selling these countries arms, we're buying their oil, and we're allowing them to come to our capital cities and we treat them like royalty. But yet we're pointing the finger of hostility towards Russia, which in my opinion is a great country and a great ally, and it always has been. And today I went to the walls of the Kremlin to lay a poppy wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier, because I think it's very important that as an Englishman that we have our remembrance period coming up. We have Remembrance Day, and we have our parades and etc. And as we remember the war heroes of our own country, we have to remember that on the same side as us, fighting the same battles, there were millions and millions of Russian citizens, Russian soldiers, Russian heroes fighting alongside us.
And my last question is, since, we have to remember, you say, is there a way to end the hostility between our countries, between Europe and Russia, probably?
Not at the moment, I think. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Because you have to look at the people we have in charge in the West. People like Angela Merkel and Emmanuel Macron. These people are committed left-wing globalists. They despise their own countries. They stand for mass immigration. They stand for the replacement of their own peoples through mass immigration. Such a thing would never be tolerated in Russia. Russia, I come here and I see the patriotism, I see the respect for traditions, and everything that holds your nation together like glue. We don't have that in the West. It's being eradicated, it's being dismantled. We're being encouraged to be citizens of the world rather than to be British and German and French. And until we overthrow politically the politicians in the Western states, I don't think anything's going to change in the short term.
Which brings us back, and we see that British citizens do not want to be the citizens of the world, But hopefully it's going to end.
Of course not, but most people in our countries, in Germany, in France, in Britain, I certainly see it, the vast majority of our people want a change in direction. They want to see our own people put first. They want to see our own history and heritage and traditions respected and promoted. And if you look at the policies and the principles of what Britain First stands for, and then you look at opinion poll after opinion poll in Britain, you'll see that they're very similar, that we have the support of the people. However, the politicians, the political elite at the top and the fake news media, they are committed globalists and liberals, and they are very hostile. And that's why I've been arrested over 15 times for political reasons.
How many? 15?
Over 15 times.
Oh.
I've been prosecuted over 10 times. I've been flung in 3 separate prisons, all for doing things that if you spoke to someone on the streets, you told them what I had done, they would probably be in agreement 9 times out of 10. But the British state uses lies and distortion and poison in the fake news media to try and stop us gaining the support of our people. And it's all corrupt, and it's going to end in tears, it's going to end in bloodshed in the West, in Western countries. And I think it's the height of hypocrisy that people in the West have got the cheek to point the finger of hostility towards Russia, which looks after its own people.
Thank you very much, and good luck.
You're welcome.
Take care. Thank you.